Well, good evening and happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Just Jump In live stream. I hope everybody is doing well. And I see we've got some people already in the chat saying hi. Ken, welcome in. Be really, really careful with those little wabbits. Chris, welcome. Nice to have you in here. Randy, hi. Art, welcome in. Model Stealing, welcome. Welcome back, actually. Nice to see you back here. You're trying to figure out a gadget to help set coupler box height. Can you work backwards from, I'm into 3D printing, so I'm going to say, can you work backwards from the coupler height gauge and create a box for right under the coupler where you would put the coupler box so that you could get it right at the height it needs to be? Welcome in, John. Nice to have you in here. And also, Chris, are you putting the couplers on to the body? I assume you are by asking about that. But I would take it from reverse engineering. Welcome in, Mom. They have on the standards gauge, they have the coupler height itself. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's the coupler height gauge, I would guess you would say. I don't know of a specific file, but if you go to yeggi.com, YEGGI.com, it's a meta site for 3D files, for STL files. And you could start looking there, and if you find something, it'll send you out to whichever site, whether it's Thingiverse, Printables, Colts, but you can try there. So, welcome in, everybody. I have made a little progress on the Campbell kit, but I just wanted to come back and talk about. I really want to push forward on the modules, but what I'm running into is the cost of the modules. At this point, a couple of years ago now, it's probably 2 years ago, I had somebody lined up in the Twin Cities who could produce a module. He's producing one for either himself or somebody else, and he quoted me a good price, and I assume it's labor and that I would get him the wood, but he needed some time. He just said give him a few weeks, and then I just didn't hear from him again. Yeah, Fremo modules. That's what I would like to do, because I'd like to just be able to bring it places and hook it up to other Fremo. It seems easiest to do it that way. And I created some Fremo-like modules in the past, but I don't trust the tools. They're old tools, and I don't trust my stamina and being able to do it. It was hard enough when I originally did it. And so at this point I'm willing to pay, but it's still cost prohibitive for me anyway right now. To have it professionally done, um, there are two module benchwork makers that give discounts through the NMRA, and so one of them, and I'll show you what I'm looking at for Fremo. So I'm trying to do 4 tracks. Let's see here. And so Fremo, the standards are 1 track or 2 tracks. 1 track modules generally are 24 inches in width, and 26 inches for the 2 track modules. And I would just modify it and add tracks on either side to make it a 4 track module. And I can work with him to customize it potentially the way he has them set up. The main issue for me is my feature scene is going to be the New Brunswick station, and that has to be the track works on a bridge for that station, so it's going to have to be lower. So that's going to have to be customized as well. And I don't know I haven't contacted him to see what he would charge for the modifications. I would have to I'd have to request an estimate or request, what he could do. But if we do, let's go and share, see if that, so to start with, I would do 26 by 48 with legs, because I'm not going to do the legs myself. So he's right now, for the standard, he's charging $290. So that's a hefty price tag. And so that would be the module there. Here it is with foam. And I would likely do foam as well. I like working with the foam. And so I would either have to modify it to add, solid piece for track, or have him modify it. But they use birch plywood for it. So that is the thought. I've waited long enough, so I know that he's got right now a 60-day turnaround time once it's all set, figured out and set up. So wouldn't be in any rush to get it to me, but I really want to start working on the scene and start having something substantial. Ooh. So yeah, Mom, he could. Then getting it here would be the next hurdle, where I'm sure there's a shipping price involved, and this guy would package and ship it. So yeah, I could certainly check in with Michael on that as well. See if he has if he'd give me a friends and family discount. But that's what I want to get moving, so that I can get the scene moving, go after some scenery stuff, go after the prototype certificate. Yeah, Ken, I think I was in the group for them, and that's who I connected with somebody in the group. And I know that they had put up some for sale, but they were doing it members first, and they must have sold. And I think they were looking at $250 or $300. It would be 26 by 48, so just over 2 feet wide and 4 feet long, for the module piece, and then the legs would be additional height. So that's been on my mind lately, and I think I have enough money saved up right now for one of them. If if I was going to go for it. They have other lengths, and so I thought about that as well for the seam because the um, platforms are going to be long. So if you look in here, they have a number of widths, and I don't necessarily. It's not necessarily. I don't think I would be. I could do 26 by 50 or 60, so that's 5 feet long, for instance. And since they would customize, or they have the ability to customize, could do that too. Here's 72 inches. That's is that 6 feet? Um, so I can negotiate um, the length, um, but the most standard and the easiest probably to travel if I was bringing it anywhere would be 48 inches. Um, but uh, I could. Um, so I got to continue to work on getting that moving, and get into all my other projects or get back to all my other projects. John, do you bring those anywhere? Do you use those modules? Did you get rid of them? Just wondering if you found a group that you can work with the modules. Would you be able to bring them to Chicago? Potentially. Depends on how much merchandise you're bringing. Because you pack the car pretty full, so you may not be able to. You might squeeze one in, maybe. Um, yeah, I'm not as afraid to pay for the wood, the work, labor, and that sort of thing. I remember when I was building them, and it was during the summer. I was building them in my garage. I was pretty much taxing myself. It was a stretch for me to do it from a skill point of view, and I have 40 and 50-year-old tools that are my dad's, um, that it was pretty inexact how I was doing it. I've built before the two modules, um, I built an N scale layout which was on a 30 by 80 hollow core door. Learned some things with that. Miscut the support beams. Didn't have the money to go grab the additional support beams, so I did some other modifications. Split rack Tom, welcome in. And then before that, my very first layout was in a really small apartment. So I built a 4x4 table, for that. And the legs were on the corners, and that was static. It wasn't modular. But I would like to do modular so that I could contribute to the shows that are around the area and around the region, and have a bigger layout out of that. The modules will also help fit in my current space, and then if our dream comes true and we get bigger space, then I can still use the modules but set up a full layout. um, So, and Tom, I wonder if it's the same guy who um, was originally gonna work with me on it. Um, so let me see. Hey, FBMRR, is that you, Rick? Um, if so, I thought you were live tonight or going live tonight too. Oh, never went any further than the frames. So yeah. So that's the most attractive thing for me to do. When I originally did the plan, I where is it? Of course now. I can't find the piece of paper I drew it up on, but here's part of it, what I was drawing up. So in my current space, it's an open cove basically, and it's about 9 by 12. So I thought I could do 8 foot by 10 foot, and with 2 foot by 4 foot modules. And so you could see here what I was doing. The problem with this would be the curves, and how, if I could get away with the curves. I have 85-foot HO scale passenger cars, and I don't think I could. Um, well, welcome, Rick. Awesome to have you in here, and I will catch yours on the rebound. Um, so, appreciate you stopping in. So, anyway, so this was part of it, and so there was going to be around the walls, and then I was going to have a turnaround, which was going to be Sunnyside Yard, which is in New York. And it's Amtrak's maintenance facility, and there's turnaround tracks there. But then I also understood that that wasn't going to fit in the space either, because that has to be too big. That being said, I still like the idea of wherever I'm going to be doing it in modules, for ease of taking it apart, reducing it, doing whatever I need. If I want to put in some other module, I can pull a module out and put that in, and maybe have slightly different track plans. That attracts me. So so um so Chris, are you in the Twin Cities? Yeah. Yep, Randy. So with N scale, you know, it would be easy to pull off for sure. So um if you're in the Twin Cities, Chris, there are clubs. There's like what, 3 clubs at least in the Twin Cities. Um, and then we have the Fremo group. They actually have a home base in Burnsville right now. In Okay, in St. Cloud area. So we have 3 clubs that I'm aware of, and Tom can definitely tell me I'm wrong, with that have layouts. Then we have, again, we have the Fremo, um, the Minnesota Fremo group, and they have a space where they store and operate their modules on a sometimes basis, sometimes public, and um, they're in Burnsville, so just south of the Twin Cities. Um, in the metro area, and they'll go around the region, and they'll go up to St. Cloud, and they'll set up in St. Cloud, Duluth, and onward. And then we have the Twin Cities division, which is somewhere around the 225, 250 members strong in the area. So if you'll often hear on my stream, I'll be promoting stuff like we'll talk about, I'm sure, stuff that's coming up. We have an operators retreat coming up at the end of this month. So if you can come down from St. Cloud for that, it was originally designed for beginners trying to jump into operations or wanting to try it. But it is open to anybody as long as there's slots. That's coming up at the end of this month or towards the end of this month. Then in March, we have our railroad prototype modelers meet. You don't have to be into prototypes for it, but it's one of my favorite events, because we all get together and share our models and talk. And then besides that, there are clinics that are put on, and we're in a new venue that we're trying this year, and so I'm excited about that because of the space it promises and stuff. Then we have most months we have monthly meetings. January and February we have virtual meetings. Our February meeting is coming up next week, where I'll have a short presentation. And then during the summer, we kind of do a picnic social thing, where it's not really surrounding modeling. And then we pick up in the fall and have monthly meetings and other events. We have one of my favorite things is a skills day. So if you can get down from St. Cloud and check us out, I would appreciate that, and I think you would appreciate that. And then there's like Tom said, there's 4 clubs with permanent layouts in the Twin Cities to visit, and there are tons of members who would love to have you visit their layouts as well when you get a chance. So okay, so I found these pictures anyway, so I wanted to show you kind of when I was talking about the bridge. Here was my first attempt where I took the foam and I was creating the bricks and seeing what I could do with them. And here is a picture of the tracks. Here's the station. And the tracks are about, the area is about 15 feet and the platform is about, this is about 15 feet up is my best guess. And there are 4 tracks here. Further back from the tracks, there are crossovers, but along here, there's not. And there are no or very little interruptions, crossings for Northeast Corridor. And so here was, this is what I want to show you some more of the photos. Here's a mock-up of the 2 pieces of foam that I started with, and these were wood blocks that I was gonna anchor them with. Here I was testing using the wood that you've all seen, and based on the historical information, this was my mock-up. This is microengineering track with the concrete ties and spreading it out based on the measurements that are there. So they have a good couple diagrams. It became part of the National Register back in 1984. But I'll show you where I made the drawing from, basically. this was absolutely invaluable. The only thing that I couldn't get from this was the height of the bridge and everything, which I've had to do some sleuthing on to try and it's still not exact. But here are some maps. Here's the station. So this gives some measurements over here. It gives the measurements towards the for all. So I have all the platform measurements, the building measurements. I have everything I need there. All the information about the structure, the shelters, everything. Bear with me for a sec here. There's more. Of course, it's not going to be in here. So it might have been from the descriptions. So I'm wondering if I got, so this it was the closest picture and it has everything. So I wonder if I drew that up from just the standard between the tracks. This right here. So there's this, I have to have a fence in here because I grew up with, and today you can hear them too. There's a distinct sound of the fence with the trains going by that you know, I'll have to work with when I have tons of money. I'll have to work with Iowa scaled engineering. Instead of the squeal, I'm going to need that chain link fence sound for trains going by. That'll have to be my ambient sound. But this is what I'm trying to do anyway. This is the centerpiece. So it's going to go from, the idea would be for the layout itself to go from Trenton, New Jersey to New York Penn Station, and vice versa, and New Brunswick would be in the middle of that. So anyway, so I wanted to show you, I for one of the modelers retreats, I had put these pictures together to show what I was working on. And so I'm nowhere near doing this stuff. I'm just dabbling in different things to try and get towards that. I had a ton off of the one piece of foam that I bought in the past. Was an 8-foot piece of foam or whatever it was, 1 inch. I'm down to almost nothing on that. I've used it for all kinds of projects. Here, this is the insulation foam, 1 inch, and so here I was testing some roadway stuff. So I'm gonna have to get more of that eventually. Anyway, so that's what's been on my mind lately as I've been working through a few things and decided to switch it up and do this Campbell kit. So let's go to and I am going to share the website since we talked about it, and Tom's pretty much correcting me or getting it more closely in place. So yeah, there's the N-Scale Fremo setup. We have a member who is, or 2 members, I think, who are actively involved with that group. They go show up at shows. At one of our events, they set up their modules to help people get into operating the stuff and get interested in that. So are you saying I have too many 1, 2, 3 blocks? I like these better. They're heavier than these. And I don't need the machinist's screw holes. And these edges are more square. Probably can't really tell, but these have a slight beveled edge to them. So these are a little bit more square, but these work fine. I have 6 of them. I have 4 of these, and I have 2 of these. And the reason I have these out like this is parchment paper. I took their advice and I used wax paper to do this step, and the glue stuck to the wax paper. And I said, okay, well, maybe it was lesser quality wax paper. So I was looking at what they say one side's coated and one side may not be and stuff. And then I went back to parchment paper, and the parchment paper we had wasn't great parchment paper either, probably a dollar store brand or something. But I went to get this the other night from it was Target brand, their Up and Up brand. And when they say nothing sticks to these, nothing sticks to these. That's why I'm using these blocks. I went to tape these down. I tried using the painter's tape I had. I tried using the Scotch tape. I have double-sided Scotch tape. Nothing would hold them down. So this works fine. It's also more difficult to glue down to this with these pieces. But I was able to get these trusses to work. So here's what I'm working on. I have one more to go on that. So I was able to build these with a lot more glue than I needed. And for this, I'm using Alien's tacky glue. That's my favorite glue because it's tacky for sure. So, but so I was using this stuff, and it just was durable wax paper, and I'm sure I got it from Dollar Tree. So I could have gotten this from Target and tried their brand or whatever, the Reynolds brand. But being that the parchment paper still worked for me. I think when I started the second one, it was on the parchment paper, and this very first piece here that you put down wouldn't stay down. Once I got the side ones down, those stayed down long enough. And all the work on these are going to go basically on the inside. And I'm trying to learn to control my glue usage and trying to put just little dots on instead of the globs that I've been doing. So working on that. So Ken, can you do you have an idea of how that's going to work with adding the skills day piece to it? And what I was going to share the website. That's what I was going to do before I got off on a tangent. So here's our website. It's tcdnmra.org. And if you come down here, you'll see our events. We have another area called the calendar that has some area events. But you'll see that we have our February Zoom meeting. February 20th is the operators retreat. Then the modelers retreat is our RPM. That's on the 14th. So looking forward to that. Then we have the other one I'm looking forward to is in April. We're looking at another set of tours. So we do these, we pick areas of the Twin Cities. So far it's been areas of the Twin Cities, and we and then so they'll be kind of close together, and the last one I went to, there were 3 down the road from each other, and so that's pretty cool. Welcome in, Gerald Ford Deepfakes. So that was the other thing I was thinking about was getting a silicone mat because this is what it's coated with. The parchment paper is coated with silicone. Um, but that was what I was wondering is the silicone mat, um, is it soft, or is it just the material on top of a hard surface? So right now I'm modeling HO scale. So I started out with N scale because of the size of my apartment, and moved to HO scale because my eyes were really failing me and my hands. I wasn't doing well with the dexterity, and so I moved to um, HO scale, and I know Ken wants me to move to S scale already. So, yep. So this wax paper, you don't really feel any wax. It feels like paper, is all it feels like. So, um, you know, and so I just didn't want to mess with it with because you only get a limited supply of wood, and this wood's really thin. So didn't so I did this, and so I'm working with it. So okay, so when you're so if I'm putting Rick, if I'm putting um if I'm so if one of some things I'll do, like if I want to keep this square, so when I do this, this is two pieces right here. So when I want this to be square with the bottom of these angled pieces, I use one of these here and one of these here to keep them in line. If you're using that mat, would this make it uneven to keep this down, or do you have a method to keep things flat when you're gluing stuff together and trying to keep them together? So I'd like to get good at repairing um, stuff too, and because I also want to build stuff, so I want to build motive power, and so um, that's something I like to do. And I watch a bunch of videos. Do you have a bunch of videos on what you do? So, okay, that sounds good. I usually get in either half or most of STS because I have my weekly call with my mom on Sundays, but I'll definitely get over there. So, are how different are steam engines when it comes to um, the power setup um, and making them go versus your um, standard stuff? Because they have different wheel setups and things like that, and I know a lot of them have like rubber tires and things. So, just curious if how that's different from like other locomotives. What football game? There's football? That's Gopher Girl is a diehard football fan, so there's always football going on. Um, and so we will have that on our TVs, and she'll be making some food. It sounds like, or she was thinking of going out and just buying it, which is not usually like her, but um, we'll see. We'll see what our Sunday meal is. Um, I've showed this to you before. This was This was recommended to me on the stream, on an earlier stream, to get angles, because I was trying to get angles right for a shell of a locomotive I was creating. But it came in handy here to get to cut the there, I'm going to break them, to cut the wood to fit flush. While this was still big, it was helpful. And so yeah, I mean, this is what I've been working on, and then so we'll have to do another one of these, one more of these. And so basically you start with the small piece here. You have the two side pieces here, so it's not really difficult. It's got the guides in here, which are really nice. So something like, so then you put those together on there, and then you can see this one's cut already, but you cut those cross pieces there, and then you also use them for those pieces, and then these long ones just sit across all of those little nuggets. So yeah, I just wish they would make them to scale, or scale them down if we could get something like that, small enough to work with our scales. But let's see. So I got these from a it was I forget, I think it was Sam's Club, and they were like chocolate mousse desserts, and so since then I've been using them for paint and glue, and so it's easy to put a drop of the Aleenes on here, and then and that comes right off. So I just use good old toothpicks for this, and then I do use these to get in close because of my chubby fingers. And it just wants you to put drops on here. And then I end up moving them around a little bit, but that looks almost right. And then it's just glue and wood is all this is. Let's Do this right. And this will move. I'm telling you, this is very slick, this stuff. So after we get the second one down, we'll get it right. I think that's pretty good. So yep. Anything to keep math off out of my my arsenal, because math and me don't do well together. It's probably why I have so little money too. And I waited till I have a coupon and all of that, and it was on sale. There was a set of like that one moved on me a little. There was a set of, and while I'm working on stuff, it's easy to just go ahead and put that down for the minute, let that dry. I like this one's stuck in here. That's not good. Michael's had a set of 14. What was it? I think 14 of these different ones. And these are really nice. This became my favorite. I mean, I like this. This one's gotten all gunky. This has been my favorite forever. Forgot where I got this one, but I've had this one forever and haven't found something pointed like that until this one. And I've seen these at shows, at like model railroad shows, where people are charging like $2 per. And they break them up and do that, and it comes in a case, and it's like, I think it's $14.99, I think. But I had a coupon and some savings. I probably had savings from there. But here I only have 3 of them out of there. I only used 3 so far, but I've got a ton in here. So if you get like a 30% off coupon, if you shop enough at Michael's, maybe you get a $5 reward, you can really cut down that price, especially if they put them on sale. I haven't seen them on sale in a long time, but either way, just a tip. That's where I got them from, and I really like them. They work well. So let me move this out of the way. So then this one already has an angle from an earlier cut. It's not a great, we'll have to improve the angle on that a little bit. So I've been using a number 17 blade on these. Yeah, I mean, if you can get them. So Gerald, I also enjoy kits. This is the first time I've ever done a Campbell's kit, because I got this for an insanely low price of $10 with everything in it sealed. The kit wasn't sealed, but all of the packs of wood and everything were sealed when I was in Chicagoland area. And I've always wanted, the local hobby shop, Scale Model Supply, has a ton of them, but they range anywhere from like $45 to $95 to $110. And so I didn't find this one there. But just the fact that it was $10 and it had everything in there was, I was getting it. So, but I've been using the number 17 blade and coming down on these pieces. And I actually go over to my cutting mat over here to do that, because I don't want to cut up any of the paper or anything. So it just needs just a little bit more of an angle. just a tiny bit. And I have a little tiny piece of sandpaper here too, just to make sure it's very gentle with these pieces because they're very not so easy to deal with. And so we can do that. And actually, what I have been doing is I've been doing these first. So let's do that. And I'll mark them off. Let's go with that. And all these seem to be the same angle. So hey, Gary, welcome in. So I can show you what not to do. That's for sure. I can show you that live or on video. So let me just double check again. So we want to be on the inside of that a little bit. The other thing you can do with the lines here is you can line that up flat and try and make your blade parallel with the lines on the side here. And that looks like that will fit as I stab myself with toothpick. And then we glue. Cut, glue, cut, glue, cut, glue. And with, I just got to get my head in here. Sorry if you see my head. Just want to get this on there like that. And while I'm getting the other piece ready, so it's gonna, well, I do hope, I don't think I'm going to have enough. And I had one where I cut bad on it, and so I might be a little short on the support beam. So we'll have to remedy that somehow. I already, on one of the sides I worked on, I already used styrene to remedy an issue. So okay, so what makes this difficult again is the size of it, but you can line it up sort of. So you have to come out. So there is a little bit of faith in this that you have to take if you do it over here. So could do it along here as well. And so you can line it up like that. And then that one might be a little shallow, but let's take a look here. So yeah, that one will probably work. I'll sand that. There was a, when I was in New Jersey, they have the Greenberg shows, and there's a tool guy there as well. There was one that used to come out here that was just like filled with tools. It was just tools, and I thought that was what the great. I haven't seen them out here since we had the larger shows, um, but there was one out that I actually got Hunterline Stain from instead of tools because he was charging the $13 or whatever it was, and he said just go to my website, and if you can't travel at home, go to my website and order there, because it's always been hard to get Hunterline Stains in the U.S. because they're a Canadian company. Great people, but always hard to get stuff from them. And I don't even think right now they're shipping to the U.S., so you have to get it where you can in the U.S. Let's see. Let's see if I did this right. So, appreciate that, Split Rock. This is flying by the seat of my pants, as they say. So also this bottle, dollar store, got it when it was $1 for 3 ounces. It's since been empty, so I decided I was going to keep that bottle for ease of use, because otherwise you have to have it upside down. And I went and bought the 16-ounce bottle, and it's barely gotten through any of it. I had another bottle. I have another bottle that I use all the time. You can't read this, but it says distilled water. It says distilled H2O in my horrible handwriting, but that's what I use that for. So when I'm mixing paints, I'll just squirt out the distilled water from here. So great bottles for this stuff. So make sure I have the right. Sand that just a little bit there. All right, now we're going to go back to our good old toothpick. Oh, it's going to be this way, I believe. I believe. And this way. This way. And we're going to go put this down, and I'll adjust it after I get it down. That's a little high. So bugs me. I didn't really need to adjust that, but it bugged me, so I did. So I'm going to put that on. Let me put the heavier one on there. So yeah, well, if it works, share the wealth. So I have the reason I like this glue is it takes actually around the same time as wood glue. So the last bottle of wood glue I have is still very full. Is Type Bond 2 is what I have. I've worked with wood glue for years. It works fantastically. This is just slightly tackier. That's plenty tacky and will get tacky quick enough, so you absolutely could do that. This is tacky right away, and they take both about the same time for handling, is about 30 minutes. So you can't go wrong with either one. So I'm going to end up short a piece because I had a problem, and this one, I had a piece break. So I don't know if you can see that, but I had a piece break and I didn't keep both pieces. I thought about gluing this together, the pieces back together. I didn't. So I'm going to be short one of these joints. However, I'm not sure that I'm worried about it because yes, this is going to be extra strength here from when the cross beams push on it. But I think with all the other supports, I can go without one of those and be okay. We shall see here. So from the prior cut, this already has an angle to it. And I come over here and I get all kinds of ridiculous with this, but I'll use this pencil. I'll come up the side from that joint. See, it moved on me. But I'll come up from that side of the joint. I'll come up from that side of the joint. And then I will just basically eye it from point to point here. And that's just a marking. I actually go by those side joints. And you could use like a chopper or something if you want, but I'm fine with cutting this way. And so I'm going to come to the outside of that a little bit. So it's going to come out a little bit longer. And I think a different angle. So but I wanted to come longer so that I'm still going to be able to glue those points. So just sand that slightly, get that. Get this moving in here. And still off just slightly. Just going to use the sand, just do it very slightly. Get glue all over my arm, which I do. We'll see if we can get this thing to stay where it needs to stay. I have so much of this Aleene's glue, I'm not worried about it drying or getting used up because I have it for pretty much feels like forever. And it seems to stay just fine in the bottles and work just fine. Let's see if we can get that in there. And then we're going to let that dry. And again, this is the last little piece I have of that. So I'm going to risk it. Like I said, I could get a piece of styrene tube or a styrene rod that's small enough, but I don't think it'll add much strength. And then then we'll glue one across. Once that dries, we'll flip it over. You just flip it over and then you glue the other one on there. So I'm going to let that dry for now and come back to that. and get past that step. And so there are a total of, looks like 25 steps. Here is what I'm building, and I don't have any place on a layout for it or anything, but it is both the building and the base, and has about 25 steps. And once I get past this step, I'm a little bit anal, not very anal, but a little bit anal. So I'm checking off everything. So step 9 will be completed once, which is right here, once I complete this truss, and then we move on. And it looks like we're going to do some painting, but if that's to be the same as the trim, I used stain instead of paint. So let me go show you what I did prior. I don't remember if it took me like 2 weeks to do this. But putting on all of the siding took a while. So there are 4, and the trim, there's trim on the doorways here, and then what they call the stiffener here at the top. So that's the stained wood. That's the stained color. Then there was, I added supports to the back of each of those. And then on these got supports as well. And their trim. So we're moving along. Not quite halfway yet. That is where we're at. So now if I was going to show the interior, that would make sense to actually have it broken, like you said, for aesthetic. But the fact is, this is going to be covered over. I'm not planning to have it open. I was just planning to build this because to get the experience of building a Campbell kit and say to everybody, hey, I can build a box of sticks, so can you. But that makes sense too if you're going to have you wear and tear. So what you got? So you're talking about and it really is a box of sticks. I mean, and it's sticks and cardboard. So for did I miss comment on here? You were talking about soldering irons. When I was doing end scale, I really wanted something smaller than the Weller, and Gopher Girl found me this one on the Amazon, and it's the TS 100, and I believe they're now up to like TS 200 for models, but it comes with multiple tips. You can take this tip out and have like a chisel tip if you want a chisel tip. It heats up really, really fast, and it works fantastic. I've had this for a few years now. And I got this so that I could solder. I don't want to get back on my my Broadway Limited rant, but I specifically, when they told me what they told me and everything, and I went in there, and that wire that they said they soldered came loose. So I had to go in and solder it. So I had to get into an N scale shell, and I didn't feel comfortable doing that with like a Weller, which is just a little bit bigger. So she found this, and this worked perfectly to get in there. The only downside, this is designed to be mobile, so it has a very short power cord. That's the only downside to it. So if you can find a longer power cord that works with this, if you use those symbols, you can get the right type of power cord, get a longer one. It's great. Other than that, I've loved this for years, so I haven't gone for a new one. I can't tell you what it was, what she paid for it back then. Maybe she can. She remembers those things. But this is one of my favorite tools, and got me through soldering, got me really into soldering stuff, and so if you're looking for one, they, like I said, they have like a 200 series now that I saw. Well, last time I looked, it was a 200 series. So you know. So yeah, so Tom, the next time you're in, you're around a Dollar Tree, go just to test it out. Go grab one of these small bottles. I use a medicine bottle to keep it upside down. Michael's has them too, but you don't have to pay Michael's prices. By getting 3 ounces will last you a really long time. This is still full, and I've been using this for a while. They produced one with a cap that was flat, so you could have it stay upside down. I just leave it in here. This works perfect for that. And no, cause we could never afford anything that expensive. So, I mean, soldering irons overall for most people aren't expensive. But you can get them for $25 or $35 or $45. I think that was a little more. Again, it came with, it's in my other room, but it came with several other tips to it. And like a lot of people like to use a chisel tip. I've never used the chisel tip. I like that little pin, that little point tip just fine for everything I've done. So let's go to the Amazon. I should apply for their affiliate link. They sent me a notice to apply for it again. I did it a long time ago, never got anybody over, and they're like, we're done with you. Now, prices are prices, and Amazon does some weird stuff with their pricing, like a lot of them do now. So my price might be different than yours just because of your spending habits and things like that. Oh yeah, they had a TS 101 after the TS 100, and then they have this TS 200, I believe. And I'm seeing the TS 101 for like $79.99 prime price. Let's see here if I can find the TS 200. And of course, there's definitely um, different brands and everything. Um, let's see. Yeah. So I see. So yeah, let's see here. So you said you were looking at the Yuhua stuff. Let me see. Do they have a? Yep, they have a store. And so they have all kinds of soldering accessories. And I mean, you can't go wrong with, and as long as they're brand, as long as they work, you can get what you need. So I wouldn't profess that mine is the absolute end all be all. Let's see their portable ones they have here. So they have a portable one here that's $56.99, $49.99. That's a neat little portable kit. Oh, those look like they're add-on kits. So yeah, there you can find a whole bunch like that. Amazon's your place to go for that stuff for sure. Hey, Brad, welcome in. Yeah, you definitely can. Yeah, they're soldering irons, regular soldering irons, or portable ones, and those sorts of things. Not, I forgot the other soldering iron type that could be more expensive, but you you can get them cheap. You go to Harbor Freight, Home Depot, Menards out in the Midwest, Ace Hardware. You're going to find the Weller ones are going to be cheap. The If you need more tips, things like that, I would find it easier getting like a Weller and getting the tips in stores. I know Ace Hardware by me has like tons of tips. So if you have to replace them and that sort of thing, but I've not had to do that with mine. So, and don't get me wrong, I am me and the way I do things. I've melted parts of shells. My cab car has a couple melts in them from using that soldering iron, trying to get those, and that's HO scale. So some of that is skill that you have to have. So, hey, Brad, what you up to tonight or today, where you are this morning? If it's morning where you are, um, I was just going through showing. I'm about, I don't know, maybe a third of the way through on this Campbell kit that I decided to try. We talked about modules, so I know that's a subject you like. That I want to move ahead and try and obtain modules, or somebody can try and convince me to get back on the ground and cutting wood on the floor of my garage like I did a couple years ago. And the other option right now is to um, keep the two modules I have, tear up the track from that. So the reason I built those modules was to learn kind of switching, and with switch lists and JMRI at the time, that when JMRI would work for me. And so I have two modules that I put everything on and test, and can do a little bit of runs and do a little bit of freight movement and everything. But what I could do is I could tear up the track there, and I could start building on those, and they'd just be my two modules, and I could start with that. And I could do the prototype certificate. Probably I could get through on that. I know that the cars have to be operating on the track and everything, and they want you to have some. It can be. They said it can be static or animated, but what they mean is lighting and detail and that sort of thing. But as long as I can get some movement with the cars and with engine, and you do need some motive power and rolling stock to do the prototype scene. There's plenty of room, so I have two 2x4 modules that I built years ago, um, and if you look at my intro, if you look at my intro video to my YouTube channel, you can see on there the me starting to build those modules at the time. They're just not very exact and accurate and have a lot of problems, but they're functional. So I could build the scene between the two modules, and I just thought of something. If I really wanted to have the stability, I can just cut a toothpick and use that. That's more stable than probably this wood is. Anyway, so I could do that, and I could, for the sake of the scene, since I'm not going to try to venture and cut the the legs that I have down, I would just put the bridge. If this would be the bridge area, and then the station would go over here, and then the track on top of this, and the platform will be up a little bit, and I could just do that on there, and not worry myself about getting modules and setting it up, and so it could certainly go that way. So yeah, if any of you don't know Brad from Willow Creek, that's his layout, and he does a fantastic job, and he's got a great YouTube channel. So I certainly would recommend you checking him out, and you see him on most of the live streams as well. So his is Willow Creek Industrial Spur. So you can actually, so just like me, if you do the @ and DMRJ, and obviously you've all found me that are on YouTube, but you can go to youtube.com and add this to the end of it, or you could just in the search bar put the ampersand and not the extra, but you'll be able to find his channel. So it's Willow Creek Brad, and he does updates, both community updates, and he does videos, and he's probably got a similar space to what I have, and he's made it work, and he does operations on his, and so check him out. So yeah, so what I could do, if you know, if I don't get attacked by these things, I could certainly add a piece of that. It's thicker. The only difference is it's thicker. I mean, I could get real technical and shave this down. I could sand it down. Go over to the sandpaper and sit there and sand it down. But that's a thought, is to do that, or I could do that and put the broken piece on for aesthetics that you won't be able to see. wish I saved the other piece of that because I could probably have glued that. It'd be very fragile, but the other thing is when you have all these measured out pieces of wood in these bags, don't go putting your scraps in there. I'm so used to saving scraps of styrene and stuff that I went and saved the scraps of wood. I don't see anything that's long enough or thin enough for that. But it gets confusing, and then you have to go through more pieces of wood when you want to find your next piece of wood that you need for these. Because I'm going to need a lot more of that. So there was this bag. Then there were these pieces came on a laser cut sheet, this cardboard. Actually, there's two of them. So if you screw one up, there's extra. Here's bag B of all the wood. And then it came with bag C is all kinds of accessories, wire. These things are gonna go, as I threw those on top. They're hard to see, but they're gonna go up in here, so they're probably gonna go all the way across. Probably above each of these truss things. You'll have those, but I was wondering what those are for. So those are your plastic parts. And then it had bag D, which was all of this aluminum siding that you had to cut. Now it's not done because you have to do the roof too, but you have to wait to do that later, according to them, as I'm building the roof. And what was interesting was on here too, that it would help if I have it where you can read it. So it's giving you all fractions for the wood sizes. So I upgraded to this guy from a dial caliper, and then a really cheap digital one, or just it didn't have a lot of functionality to it. Didn't have this. This is great. This is a lock on top here. You just twist it. But this not only has millimeters and inches, it has inches in fractions, so that I was able to go, measure the wood so I knew which I needed. So that's a neat feature and worked perfectly for what I needed. But this is one of the tools that I didn't originally take from my dad that my mom had lying around. So I stole it from her officially, but my dad had got it originally. And this wasn't expensive. I think I went online to look at them, and I think this one was like $25. At least today, it's like $25. It might have been $10 back when he bought it. He's already been gone for over 10 years, I think. And so, our economy was way different then. But yeah. So I don't know if I'll go through the effort of doing that, but I maybe could. Hey, my mount models, welcome in. We were talking kits earlier besides this kit, and I bought one of his models, and it's now it's not a great picture because I don't take great pictures, but on his website you can see it. There's Wiley's. You'll have to correct me on this, but it's Wiley's Tavern. And I used it to create a version of a childhood restaurant called Stuff Your Face. I even stole from them their logo and their little mascot guy and put that on there. That was a great kit to build. And it was a fun kit to build, and I don't do a lot. I usually build the kits as they are. I don't do a lot of customization to them, and that one I was able to do, and he makes it easy to do that. And he, for the kit, he did part of it was designed to be, thank you, Wiley's Good Times Tavern. He did that's right, Rutgers of New Brunswick. That's correct. There's a place called Stuff Your Face. It was these Strombolis. If you know a Stromboli, basically it's an inside-out pizza. It's fantastic. And there were two places I would go in New Brunswick, growing up, and now as family dinners. We would go to Stuff Your Face and Stuff Our Faces, and then we'd go next door to a place called Thomas Sweet that had the first time I ever saw blend-in ice cream. So you can get all kinds of blend-ins, and they do it right there for you. They also had a side where they had chocolate. Anyway, so I went and built that. And so one of the things he recommended was this textured color for stucco. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. I'll go buy it. I'm like, what else am I going to use it for? And some of you might remember I used this for the storefront for my mom's miniature display, and use this. So this is really nice stuff. It comes out really good, and you can, it's light, so you can weather it nicely too. You can make some of these dark spots, and it's hard to see, but there's plenty of dark spots and color from that. Anyway, so I still have some of that left, but I used a lot because the display was so big. But that was a neat ad. Yeah, it works well for stucco, and it's easy to, like I said, it's easy to weather, so that, or even if you wanted a darker stucco, you could use this and paint it. So yeah, and he's got really good directions. He's got colorful directions. He gives you color charts and everything. Unlike this bag of wood, the bag of wood that we got from him was color coded, and his directions clearly state what the colors are for the sizes. So way easier to do than measuring it out, but the calipers worked in lieu of that. But still like the ease of use of the directions better. So appreciate you stopping in and checking out what I'm working on. So we're watching glue dry now a little bit, and like I said, it's just about a half hour. I was just deciding if I was gonna use a toothpick in that spot. So yeah, that's another good thing. If you're a website user, you can do that as well. Absolutely. But it was a fun time putting together the kit. So yeah, so go check it out. I think it's on page 3 of the pictures. And Gopher Girl is the one who picked out the colors. She does all the color picking for anything that I do because I'm terrible at it. I can't match two colors together. She's my go-to person. So wonder. I could use that to flatten it. It's like double the size of these, so I don't know if I'll use that. So yep. So and he's in New Jersey as well. So he knows the area that I'm talking about. And he's got a channel, and starting to see if you do watch the shorts that pop up, I'm sure his have popped up. I believe that's your wife, isn't it? That does the shorts with you. Um, so those are nice to see as well. Let's see here. Yeah. So I think I've also said I have more. So I have these have better squared edges if you need the edge. These are square, but you need them. And if you don't need and these are heavier, obviously, because there's more mass. So if you don't need the screw holes, so I have 6 of these. I have 2 of the solids, and then I have 4 of the for these guys. And this is what's holding down the parchment paper, because nothing will stick to this parchment paper. So I couldn't get any type of tape that I was going to be able to pull up off of the instructions. What was I going to do? Oh, yeah. So let's give them some. Let's give them a shout out and say hashtag not sponsored here, but we'll navigate over. So his website is pretty simple. It's mindmountmodels.com. So here's his website, and if you go over to the build gallery, and I think it was, at least when it was last, remember putting it on, it was, there we go. So this is what I built right here. And you can see this is my module, by the way, that these are on. And that's the stucco that, and I'm sorry, the pictures just, and they're my pictures and they're not great. Although I do have to say, I learned here that there are a couple of, there's only like 2 aspects in model railroading I don't love. One of them is shingles. I did not, and it was no fault of the shingles, no fault of the kit. So I don't want anybody to take it that way, but I hated putting shingles on. I don't want to do that. I may not in the future, but so that's the kit. And, we weren't sure about the blue, but my wife was right. The blue worked. There's a back end to it, so like a back entrance, and so I use some wire to curl it up to put the flag, the Rutgers flag, on there that you see off to the left, and there's some Rutgers football posters on the side of the building. It's a very it's frequented very much by the Rutgers community, but that's their name, and it's hard to see on here, but there's a little guy that's their mascot, I guess you would say, that's on there as well. So yeah, let's see here, and if I would go to the right thing. So, and this is what he's talking about. He houses the kit directions on here, so you can get the kit that you need. And he's got how-tos. And if you're shopping on here, I'll show you the Wild Good Times. I'll show you what it is. It'll look very much the same. I didn't like mod it or anything. There it is. So mine was just a visual mod. But that's what it is there. So thanks, Mom. Appreciate that. Of course, because of the memories. And when I've gone back to visit my mom, we've gone over there. We've made it a point to go over there and eat. And so I don't think I've tried rolled roofing material. Um, so I've done like um, I've done sandpaper. I've done paper that I've painted. Um, for one of the kits had like stickers, like almost like white labels that they cut long, and you painted it, and I painted it black and put it on and then weathered it. Um, but I've dealt with mostly flat roofs. This was one of the first ones that I've dealt with that was an angled roof like that. So um, yes, I wish at the time he was. I don't think he was an NMRA partner at the time that I got my kit, but uh, I've been I've been trying to convince him, and I'll say it here too. You've got to work with the Twin Cities division so that we can get a deal, so that people can get kits and we can do a build along. That would be fantastic. Learned to do that when I was working with the New Tracks modeling folks, and I try to encourage that with any manufacturers to do that with our NMRA divisions and regions. So you got the rabbits done. Now you have squirrels to do. Do you have like one strand on your paintbrush? Um, that's the I don't know how people paint that small. I try, but I have a slight tremor, so that doesn't help. So I do a lot of steadying my hands. So yeah, we had some conversations about it, and I know that on prior occasions I've tried to get it in front of you as well. So but you know I don't think that you worked with new tracks modeling, but what we used to do in new tracks modeling would be, if you were part of new tracks modeling, you would get a small discount, and it would encourage people to buy the kits, and then we go out and buy the kits, and then we'd have somebody who was doing the build along, whether it was the manufacturer or it was somebody who was proficient at building them, and would show their step by step going through and doing them. So anyway, um, that's all I'll say. And now that you're talking with Tom about it, who is our grand poobah, um, I just can't wait for that to happen. So yeah. So I'm trying to see if I have another picture of. I should have a picture readily available somewhere. Anyway, the so I'm really leaning towards, because I really the only problem with the modules that I have now is I would want to take out the boards and put foam in. The I got like MDF type um board for the surface, and it actually has um kind of warped a little bit with the weather and stuff, and it was very thin, so it wasn't very strong. So I would put foam in there in those modules, and so I could do that, and I could redo the track and do the bridge on there. So that may well be the way I go with that. So Yeah, and that's what we did. So we might have, and it was long, and because there were so many segments and different things we did in new tracks, you might have a 15-minute segment where you did the build along, and you might span that over 4 or 5 weeks, if the commitment could be there. If you have the space to do that, and you're uh, so yeah, I have yet to find instructions. When the key to the instructions to me are when they tell you use this product or this method, or it's a good bet you're going to do that. So you can try your own method, you could try your own products, you could get, but you're going to spend just as much money if you were trying to save money to do that. I learned that from reading the directions to a bunch of kits that I've done. And you can't go wrong with the mind mount model um, directions for sure. They're very clear, and these are not they're not they're okay. It's a box of sticks. There's a little bit of interpretation you need to do because of the pictures, and there's a little bit, but I'm not, and maybe it's because I have experience now. Maybe I'm not finding it as daunting. Um, and again, having the calipers with the fraction measurements makes this a little easier. Um, but yeah, this is not, these instructions are nothing like modern day instructions that we see on a lot of kits. There's one person I follow that does, since Jason Jensen started doing kits, um, that he does a lot of his kits. And what he said is, the Jason Jensen, I've never done one of Jason Jensen's kits, but I've watched him incessantly and kind of feel like I have a flow of what he does. And it would be easy to follow, but apparently he does. Um, he tells people to watch his videos where he shows the build, and that's how he does his instructions essentially. So curious people um if people like that, and like that about his, how he has things set up. That'd be interesting. So that is a neat idea. That's correct. That, you know um when I in any store now, after doing this for a while, in any store, that's what I sit there and do, is like, can I use this for model railroad, and can I use that? I don't have the space like some do to be able to like hold on to scraps of things, every box that we get, or foam inserts from um shipping and things like that, and all those kinds of things. I don't have room for that in my current living situation. So I tend not to save a lot of stuff, because then there's just no room to move. Um, but that would be neat to go through, um, you know, any type of store and do that, and um, you know, the biggest thing I always look at are, how can I scale down the tools to help me, and that's what I was talking about when I was talking about this earlier. Um, if we could get this in a much smaller version so that our smaller scales, can deal with these large edges here, so that we can still get our angle. That would be that would be fantastic. So when I was doing the edge of the shell I was creating, this was a little bit of an impediment when I was trying to figure out if it was accurate or not. So Yep. So I don't only follow model railroaders or other model builders on YouTube. I'll watch anything like um, any crafters. They're because there are always tools that you can use. These, the these you find in the beading section of um, Michaels. If you want to use fishing line style or elastic line for like power lines and you want to go to Michaels, go to the beading section, not the hobby section for that kind of stuff. So you can absolutely find in different areas. Where do we get for people who make the puffball trees and the filler trees? Where do they get that filler? It's near the knitting section, near the yarn, um, in any of those stores like Michael's. That's where you're going to find the pillow filler that you're going to use for the trees. So absolutely. So it doesn't really come out. Usually on mobile, it's hard to do, but on your if you have your laptop or desktop, if you put the ampersand in front of the person's name, if they've commented in the chat, it will highlight them. You click on it, and then you type your message, and so then they're alerted and they see it. So, yeah, the other thing from the beading section that has been fantastic for me, I almost forgot about these. I don't know why my streams always get into these like tool tips kind of things, but this 3-pack is from there, and so a little pliers with a flat on the inside is very useful. I was using these before I got a flat cutter because those aren't flat in there; they're slightly angled, but this still cuts very well. And more than those, I use these little guys for bending wire, like if I'm doing grab irons, or if I'm bending the what do you call that? The metal piece on the couplers. I use this all the time. So, yep, yeah, we need more. We need more. We need more people to win in that category. So, ooh, interesting. That's how nuts I've gotten to. When I took my last trip out east and I was taking pictures, unfortunately, the windows for Amtrak trains are never really clear. They're usually pretty dirty. Um, so I didn't get my shots weren't great. But when I was going through, um, I think would have been Maryland area where it's where you dig into the mountains in there. Um, and they had these old power lines. They were very old, so they weren't modern, but I took pictures of the tops of them because that's where the level I was at, just so that I could model those closely if I was putting power lines on the side. And like you said, those beads would work very well for that. So, yeah. Yep. So, um, so somebody's got to tell me at our last Christmas. Was that our last? Well, where did I? It was maybe our last Christmas thing. I don't wasn't at the last one, but maybe before that. In the one of the things that I won or grabbed or was part of the grab bag was these cotton swabs. These are gigantic. Anybody have any outside of just cutting off the cotton swab and using the wood for wood projects. Anybody, what could I use those for? Maybe I could use them for when I'm decaling, maybe. Because I have, I bought one of those like 700 Q-tip boxes, but I have these and I have yet to use them. But I'm wondering if maybe I could use them for when I'm decaling something. I've got to bring these. I bought. We have some old knives, so at the dollar store, I went and bought some steak knives for cutting the insulation foam. So I have these. I could probably keep one and bring the rest downstairs to our kitchen if I want to share. There's one other tool I didn't think would be helpful, but there are a few tools. I know we've gone over before. This one you can use to cut circles. And I was doing a project where I needed to do the top of like grain bins, scratch built them. And basically you can extend that out. And this actually comes with not just blades, but it has a blade here, and then you stick it in the middle and you twist it around. But it comes with pencil lead, so that if you're going to draw for whatever reason, then cut, you could do that as well. Oh, that's the thing. The last time I unfurled a Q-tip, I did it for I built this general store for one of the build alongs for New Tracks Modeling, and it was the first Craftsman kit I ever did. That's what got me into building these kits, and I used that for chimney smoke. So. Yep, I was wondering if you could use that. This one seems a little. I don't know. It seems thick, but you could do that with, like, if you're doing fencing to do one of the fence posts and make it longer. So, like you said, jam it into the ground. So yeah. So now I just got to find things. So one of the hurdles I have with using the if I wasn't going to replace the baseboard of the modules, one of the hurdles I would have is the roads. The roads I did because I really liked the idea, and I worked on it and they came out really nice. I did roads with what the heck did I do? What do we call that stuff? Grout. My goodness. So I did them with grout. Well, it's solid. It's absolutely solid. There's not really a good way to pick that stuff off of there. I'd probably destroy the MDF. So that's another reason I would have to pull that out and then put down the foam. But if I really want to get moving, that's probably what I need to do, is go out and buy a bunch, 8 foot of foam and cut that and put it in where the MDF was. And then deal with the height of it. It'll be a little higher. If I got 1 inch, it would still be a little higher because that MDF, I think, is probably a 1/2 inch. But I'm sure I could deal with that. So Yeah, so lots of good ideas coming out here. So I'm gonna see at this point. I'm gonna wing it here with this. I'm not gonna go do the whole toothpick thing because I'm just gonna be lazy about it. And so now this is where the 1, 2, 3 blocks will come in handy. So I'll use both of these and then I'll put them together. So I'm gonna have to stand up to do this, but I'll put it back over here. Oh, the other thing is get your, if you do a lot of gluing and detailing, get yourself some toothpicks from a Dollar Tree. So for $1.25, maybe $1.50 now, you get like I think 500. And so I bought 2 boxes a while ago and haven't had to do anything with them. Haven't had to replace them. I mean, they're I haven't gone into the second box yet, but I use a lot of them because of gluing stuff. I use them all. They've time and again been the best glue applicator, I guess is the word. And this is probably too much put on here. So we're just going to eye it for the moment. Try and get it there, but we're going to come up. I'm going to have to do this like this. And I get a little anal about this because I'm going to get that against there. And then I'm going to use, I have a couple of these angle joints or square joints. So this one is the thinnest one, but it's still too thick. So I'm going to put this over this. Now, I could put this one on here, but I think we're going to be fine with that. And again, needed a little bit of movement there. And then I'm just going to let it be. Again, probably only need a half hour. And then the last part of that step, after that's done, is to pull it off the parchment paper and glue the other side on. Hey, Ron, have a good night. Have a good time at the op session. Have a good time. Get some sleep. I'll be wrapping up here shortly as well. Having a good time, doing work on stuff. All of y'all keeping me honest and making sure I'm doing stuff, making sure I'm doing it right. And so I appreciate that. So I like working while I'm talking to you guys. And so trying to make sure I do that with you all watching me. But the other thing I want to give, I do want to get on to the modules so that I can get the scenery started, and then get back to the cars. That'll be the next one to get back to, is to finish up the gondola. I'm thinking at this point that I want to convert the cab car to motive power instead of having it just, I bought the decoder that doesn't have motor function. It just has lighting and sound. But I think I want to change that because I think it'll just work better than I had it working that way. And I think to me, it's motive power anyway. Um, and then also, I started on the catenary maintenance vehicle. That's going to be motive power as well. So I still have to finish up the passenger cars and the gondola as well. And then see where we're at with that. So lots and lots of projects that I have to do or don't have to do, but want to do all for the achievement program for the NMRA. That's what's motivating this. And so so I just got to keep moving along. And I appreciate everybody hanging with me and moving along with me and keeping me motivated and keeping me engaged. And I hope I'm getting you engaged and stuff. So I'm going to say, with us hitting the 2 hour mark already, I'm going to say we probably all could use some sleep. We all got stuff going on this weekend, and hopefully it's all model railroading related. So I'm going to say, just jump in and try something new and have a fantastic rest of your night and weekend, everybody.